Recently, I was camping in Colorado with my friend, and our scout troop went on a hike. My friend and I disagree on many things politically, one thing being whether a single payer healthcare system should be enacted. While we were arguing, our scoutmaster came up to us and said something like, "What you're arguing for is more money to the federal government. More money. That has never worked." I was surprised. What he said was unexpected. I gave the example of infrastructure spending and how it has been successful in growing the economy. And that is what I want to talk about in this video. Not single payer, but whether it is a good idea for the federal government to invest more money into America. Does the government put money to good use? There are a range of arguments for less government spending. However, the argument of government inefficiency is the one we are going to focus on in this video. One of the best ways to judge a political idea or policy is to look at history. Social Security, a government program enacted in 1935, has a surplus of $3.1 billion and helps provide housing, food, and other necessities to elderly people who would otherwise be a drain on the system. States who have expanded Medicaid have seen largely positive outcomes, and it is estimated that increasing United States expenditures on infrastructure by 1% of the GDP would create 1.5 million jobs. And for every $1 invested in infrastructure, around $3 will be returned in the form of GDP growth. These examples show that the government can be extremely efficient and provide needed services for the American people without inefficiencies. However, when looking at how efficient the government is, we must compare it to the private sector. The private sector is claimed to be more efficient because companies and other corporate entities compete to provide the best services and prices, which in turn benefit the consumer. However, the private sector must turn a profit to operate and survive. Therefore, when buying something the private sector produces, a customer is not only paying for the product or service, but also the profit. This issue of paying for a corporate entity's profit is non-existent when it comes to the public sector, as the government is for the people. It is a social contract which binds people to laws and provides services. The government therefore does not need a profit because its sovereignty comes from the people, not money. In addition, many of the services provided by the government, the private sector simply won't provide to low-income Americans because they cannot afford them. Services like Social Security prevent victims of poverty from draining the system and promote the greater good, but a company providing financial support for every single American would be a horrible business decision despite it benefiting America as a whole. Providing starving people with food is something that only the government can do, and would also be a bad business decision. Looking at other countries as examples is also a good way of gauging potential success of a political theory. Norway, Sweden, and Denmark all use around 50% of their GDP on government spending. Each of these countries have lots of GDP per capita, lesser inequality, and have high economic mobility. So high government spending doesn't amount to inefficiencies and is in fact more efficient because it doesn't need a profit to operate, and a government spending can help provide needed services to low-income people. What do you think about government spending? Like the video if you enjoyed it or learned something, and subscribe if you want more political breakdown.